Hello again and welcome to another Mordian Mondays. This is episode 29. So, if you've been following Mordian Mondays over the last few weeks, you will know that I have been beginning my Assault Corps, which is my Death Corps of Krieg detachment, except I'm not using Death Corps models, I'm using the old 3rd edition Stormtrooper models, the one-piece metal guys. And I've been using these to represent my Assault Corps, the elite veteran detachment within my Mordian Iron Guard army, and I felt like I won't go over it too much, but I felt like using these Death Corps Grenadiers and Death Corps Krieg rules really fit for them because they're fearless, they're not going to fall back, very much like Mordians, and very much like my Mordian 50th rifles. They want to get stuck in close combat, and that's where the weapon skill 3 comes in. So I've been using this 3rd edition models, and I have got 3 squads painted up. But I wanted to start fielding these guys on the battlefield as soon as possible. Now, Grenadiers are troop choices, and so I had 3 squads, so I needed the 2 characters to round out the bare bones minimum for the detachment. And that's what I have been working on this week. So we've got painted up an old school Stormtrooper Sergeant, the one with the plasma pistol and bolter. And we've also got painted up an old Kazakin Sergeant. Now, what's really interesting about both these models, what's really interesting about the Stormtrooper Sergeant is his loadout is now actually illegal. You can't take that loadout on an officer or any model in the Imperial Guard. You can't take a pistol and a rifle equivalent, so a bolter in this case. That's not really a problem at the end of the day. Most of the time I'm actually going to end up running him with the plasma pistol, and if I'm ever playing a game, I'll just specify at the beginning of the game with my opponent which one he's using. Is he using the plasma pistol? Is he using the bolter? Doesn't really matter. Like I said, I'll probably default to the plasma pistol because that's the weapon he has in his hand. Quite simply, it's the one that's most obvious on the model. Absolutely love that Stormtrooper Sergeant. I just think it's so iconic the way he's got that plasma pistol held up, and he's obviously pointing it at something that's much bigger than him. If you look at the raised up manner of the way he's aiming it, maybe some sort of Tyranid Khan effects or enemy vehicles heading his way, and he's just drawn his plasma pistol, he's ready just to blow a massive chunk out of it. And that does kind of fit with the fluff with the old school Stormtroopers. They were meant to go in there and take on the hardest enemy units and destroy them. They were just almost suicide units, but they did always take on the biggest and baddest threats. So it's kind of cool. Now the old Kazakin Sergeant model is absolutely just a really joyous model to paint. I really enjoy painting it. You can see the big differences. Well, you might not be able to see it on the finished models, but when you're painting them, you can really get an appreciation for how sculpting has improved against Workshop just between an edition, just between 3rd and 4th edition essentially, because these, the Stormtroopers were released beginning of 3rd edition, and the Kazakin were released at the end of 3rd edition, going into 4th edition with the Eye of Terror supplement, and you can just see the difference. That they're just there's so much more detail on the Kazakin model, and there's it's much higher quality, the sculpt. There's less bits just filled in with random metal. Even on this Stormtrooper Sergeant, the bolter, you won't be able to necessarily see it from the pictures I've seen, although that one's quite a good example. You see the bolter, the stock actually sort of molds into the guy's chest, and there's just this bit of lump of metal. There's no gap there, so you don't have that at all with the Kazakin side. There's none of that random bits of metal filling in gaps. They've got the sculpting much cleaner on that model. But I enjoy painting both of them, don't get me wrong. Now, with the Kazakin Sergeant, you may notice that his backpack is not actually the original one that came with the model. This is actually, I got this Sergeant from a friend. I swapped him. I think I just bought them. Hit that and a load of melter guns and special weapons off him for a reasonable price, and he unfortunately didn't come with the backpack. So I had a spare Skitarii backpack. That's what, yeah, spare Skitarii backpack lying around. So I trimmed off some of the hanging down like incest burners and stuff, and just glued it straight on the back. No trimming of the connectors or anything, and it went straight on, and it looks really, really good. Yeah, it almost looks like an actual Kazakin backpack. So that's really, really cool. So if anyone out there wanted to remake some Kazakin, then I think you could do it quite easily, because you could just take a normal Cadian body and then potentially, you know, normal Cadian body, normal Cadian arms, all that stuff. You might have to buy some sort of third-party armoured legs, like Anvil Industries, for example, so that you've got a more armoured body. And then you could quite simply just use Skitarii backpacks and then green stuff some cables for your Hellguns, for your hot shotguns. Or you could use Scion arms with Cadian bodies and legs if you want to go full GW. If you were doing this full GW, so you could attend to GW events, how I would recommend doing it is going Scion arms with the rifles, with Cadian body and legs, and then Skitarii backpacks, and then use the Scion sort of power cables, but then green stuff at them a bit as well to connect them to the Skitarii backpacks, maybe, or just cut off the cables entirely and go for a hybrid combination of Cadian and Stormtrooper equipment, because you have the Cadian sort of body armor and helmet and legs and everything, but you'd have the Scion arms, and but you wouldn't have the hot shotguns with cables. So it's kind of like a mixture of second edition Stormtrooper models with Cadian bits. That would kind of work to make some sort of pseudo Kazakin. That's how I would recommend doing it anyway. Now, even though I had a full week, I only got these two models done, and I spent a lot of time on these two models, and I like to do that with my characters. With the normal squads, I tend to sort of do them to a fairly decent standard. Actually, to be fair, I paint them to the best of my ability, but if there's a few little rough bits that I know the washes will tend to hide, then I don't go over it. That's not a problem. You know, and if when I'm doing the dry brushing, if a little bit too much bright green goes on a shoulder pad, that's fine. I'll tend to leave it, because in the whole squad, those kind of details, those mistakes tend to disappear. So, but with my characters, I like to put a bit more effort into them, and maybe it shows through, maybe it doesn't. But I'm really, really proud of how both these characters came out, especially the Kazakin Sergeant. Now, I think what I wasn't sure when I was doing the hazard stripes in the model, how they were going to turn out. I originally was thinking about having the power cables black and doing hazard stripes all down the power cables, but in the end I thought that might be a bit too much yellow and wouldn't really fit in with the scheme of the normal Stormtroopers. So what I did is I decided to go with bronze, because if you look at the normal Stormtrooper squad, the power packs I've got in there are bronze. Now that's different to the power packs on the regular Guardsmen. Regular Guardsmen, the magazines to the guns are just black, whereas on these ones, on the hot shots, I do bronze, and that's just I don't know why. I guess bronze, it's like copper. It looks copper. I use brass Scorpion. Actually, so it's not even bronze. I use brass Scorpion, but I tend to find it looks quite coppery, and I figured copper, high conductivity, hot shot power packs that have more power in them, and I tend to use brass Scorpion for all the special weapons in my eye. If you go back and look at the plasma guns and the melter guns and the flamers, anything which is a special weapon, essentially, I like to try and use bronze. So, and I figured hotshot lasguns and hotshot weapons are kind of like special weapons, so they are definitely a special weapon compared to a basic lasgun. So, point is that I have the brass Scorpion, and I use that on the regular hotshots, and I thought, well, we'll use that for the power cables on the side and see how it turned out. Actually, not too intrusive at all. I think it works really, really well. And I think the reason it works and isn't too obnoxious, which is what I was concerned about having, you know, a full cable of power of hazard stripes, is because it kind of matches the brown which are on the models, which is on the model. So, you know, you've got the brown webbing and everything, and I kind of feel like the bronze fits in with that. It's basically like shiny brown after you put a wash of Northern on it. So yeah, that's just my experience. Let me know what you guys think. I did want to do some hazard stripes, so I painstakingly did it on the sort of on the cable clips essentially, and the connector to the of the cable to the gun. I think it worked out quite well, and then I did to sort of contrast with it. Or to try out my other idea, I did the full hazard stripes on the power sword. Now you might think, oh, that's a bit, you know, you should have hazard stripes on both. But the thing is that I think it would have been too much on both, to be honest. And also on one of the Cadian lieutenants that I did a few weeks ago, well, almost a couple of months ago now, which I used as one of my sergeants with a plasma pistol and power sword, I did just the hazard stripes on his pistol, and so on his power sword, and so this power sword on this Kazakhin sergeant matches with ones that I've done in the army previously. So you've got that consistency across the whole army. Because one of the things that I have noticed that can happen, especially if you're building up an army over a really long period of time, is you do something one way at the beginning of the scheme, and then you change it halfway through without even realizing. So and that's something you want to avoid, because then it can be obvious. So one of the things that happened with my Black Templars, for example, is I originally painted all the guns Mechanicus grey and then washed them in Drakenhof Nightshade. But then without even realizing it, just subconsciously, just halfway through, I started washing the weapons in Nuln Oil. Just didn't even realise it, and I didn't even realise it until I was about 80% of the way through the army, and I was like, well, you know, I didn't at the time. I didn't want to go back and redo them all. I'd been, you know, put a lot of effort into the Black Templars, and I was kind of burned out from them. So what is important is to try and remember to keep. What I'm trying to say is to try and remember to keep the consistency across the scheme. And I'm sure there'll be some things I've done with my Mordians and I've changed halfway through without even realising it. I've definitely made improvements. So, you know, I do all the edge highlighting and the dry brushing now, which I didn't do on the first platoon, which I did on the second platoon. So it is important to, you know, the lesson to take from this is to try and keep consistency. Try and not change things halfway through. If you do change it halfway through, if you improve it, like me on the edge highlighting and dry brushing, make sure you go back and do it on the other guys, because it will stand out. My non-dry brushed edge highlighted Mordians look almost completely different from my second platoon ones where I dry brushed and edge highlighted them. But I will be going back and improving that. So little bit of last bit to say on the modelling side of things. If you notice, I have stuck a little bit of red grass tuft on the bases now. So I was a little worried with the bases of the Mordian fitted rifles, because it was just brown on the base. You know, I'll do the whole base brown, and then just do one layer of Grellan earth over the top, and it cracked and it looked great, but it was very simple and it looked okay, but I felt like it was the weakest part of the model. I felt like the bases were the weakest part of the models. So I decided to try. I was originally going to have sort of bits of equipment on the ground, like a knife stuck into the ground, or a discarded power pack, or a broken rifle or something. But then I thought it just looked a little bit too much like there was all this discarded equipment around the Mordians, and they were, and I thought that would look messy. and totally the opposite. The more you know, Mordians would never just throw away a broken bit of armor or something like that. No, they're prim and proper, and they're very neat and tidy, and they wouldn't just be littering all over the place. And I also, you know, so I was a little worried and all about that. And then I thought, well, what about you know, I've got loads of spare bits from like vehicle sprues and stuff. I could chop bits of metal up and have it on the ground. But I thought, why would there be all this metal just in this dry, cracked earth? You know, what does that mean? So then I got the idea from one of my friends who has painted up a load of scions. His main army is his scions, and he uses little grass tufts. And I thought, well, but he goes for sort of a Sterling mud base, so that would, you know, that really works because you've got little bits of grass sticking out of the mud. And I thought, oh, well, I don't really want, you know, and there's already too much green on, you know, on the base. So I didn't want to use traditional green grass tufts. So then I thought, what about going for grass tufts? Easy things you can buy. You can buy these things by the hundreds, and I bought a pack of 200 red grass tufts for, I think it was £3. It was nothing. But like I said, what about, instead of green, going for red? And this can represent, it's obviously some sort of alien planet that they're on. Well, it's not Earth. And it's obviously some sort of badland, the whole planet's some sort of Badlands style planet. And it's cracked, dry, baked Earth. Maybe it's some sort of desert planet, baked Earth. Which you know, with just this weird alien sort of flora with this red grass. It's the only thing, you know, the only thing that can survive here are these hardy red weeds kind of thing. And so that's what I went for, because I thought it would look, you know, I didn't want to go for blue grass tufts. I didn't want to go for green because they wouldn't fit. And I thought red is actually, it will match the base, the brown base. But also there's little bits of red on all the Mordian models, so it'll kind of fit in there. But it will also contrast, it will mostly contrast with it. I think that'll look quite good. So that's what I've done. Now, I think it looks really, really good. I still think there's something maybe a little missing. But for now, it's a massive improvement. However, my only concern is, does it look a little silly on a full squad? That's my main concern. Does it look a little silly on a full squad? So that's why I included, even though I only painted the 2 characters this week, even though I only painted my cat's crying at me trying to get fed early. You're trying to get fed an hour early. Sorry, I don't know if you guys heard that. Now, little myth being cheeky, trying to bite my hand off now. So, I mean, I am saying no to feeding the commissar cat. So if I don't report in, it's probably because she has blamed me. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. So I'm just a little worried that, even though I only painted the 2 characters this week, the Kazakh Sergeant and the Stormtrooper Sergeant, which I'm using with my marshals. But I included the 5-man squad from last week because I have stuck on red tufts on each of their bases. And I'm just wanting you guys to let me know, what do you think? Does it look okay when every single model has one of those grass tufts on it? And is it going to look a bit stupid if the whole army, imagine you've got 270 people, 270 guardsmen, all deployed, and every single one of them's got this random little red grass tuft. Do you think it would work? Or do you think it would look stupid? You know, that's kind of what I can't quite decide at the moment. I mean, it looks good on a single model for sure, and it looks good-ish on a squad of 5. But does it look silly? Will it look silly when every single model's got it? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure, to be honest. I mean, it probably won't. It probably won't. It'll probably look absolutely fine. But I'm just a little concerned. So you guys, let me know what you think on the 5-man squad. Let me know what you think on the 5-man squad. Now, with these characters finished, and now going back, so that's the hobbying side of things done for this video. Now, with this these 2 characters done, this is actually the basis of my 3rd platoon, 3rd detachment. So what I have to do now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back and finish second platoon. Okay, I never finished second platoon. And what I have left to do in that platoon is to do another 10-man squad. And I need to do the veteran squad for that platoon as well, because every platoon has 6 regular squads of infantry and a squad of veterans and an auxiliary, abhuman auxiliary unit, and a heavy weapon squad and then characters. So I've done all the characters. I've got, for both platoons. I've done 5 out of 6 infantry squads for second platoon. I'm working on the third one right now. It's a converted Cadian squad with a melter gun. I know you guys know at this point I love my melter gun 10-man infantry squads. The sergeant in the model is actually quite interesting because I've got for to lead the squad a classic Cadian metal sergeant with a las pistol and a power sword. So that'll be quite interesting. His equipment looks very different to the other ones, and I like to imagine it's some proper old school veteran that's been picked up at some point. The last surviving member of this sort of planet, this Cadian planet PDF, or maybe not Cadian PDF, but this PDF. He's an individual. I reckon he's the last survivor of a regiment. And he's just basically been folded into the Mordians because they're an infantry regiment. They always need reinforcements. And because he's the last survivor, he's a hardcore veteran. But you'll get to see him next week, hopefully. So I won't go on about it too much. Now, once that squad's finished, I've got the veterans to do. And then I've got the abhumans. Now, I have previously talked about maybe doing some ratlings, which would be cool. But I do actually have some Bulgrins which need painting up. I do have some Bulgrins which need painting up. And since my Ogrins have been nerfed fairly heftily by Games Workshop, thank you very much for that, I almost feel like going for Bulgrins now. So what might be quite interesting is I've got a full squad of 9. I've got 6 built, but I've got a full squad of 9 that I can build. I've got 3 more waiting in the wings. Now I'm thinking, do I do for the abhumans just a massive squad of Bulgrins, just go full Bulgrin and have that as the abhuman bit? That'll take a while to paint up 9 Bulgrins. They could take 2 to 3 weeks. So that'll be interesting to see what we end up doing with them. But then when that is done, I plan on going back to finishing off third platoon. So you're gonna have a little break from the Stormtroopers now, unless people are really want to see more Stormtroopers. I've got waiting in the wings. I need to build another 3. I need to bring the 3 5-man squads up to 10-man squads, and I need to build another 5 10-man, another 3 10-man squads. So starting off with 5 men with the sergeant special weapons, and then bulking them out with 5 men with just rifles. If people want to see things like more Stormtroopers and some Kazakin models painted up, let me know down in the comments. I'm happy to switch between finishing second platoon and continuing with third platoon. Happy to go back and forth between those two because they're both fieldable now. All 3 detachments are fieldable. The bare minute, one platoon is completely finished, one platoon is 9% finished, and the third platoon is at least the bare bones, the skeleton group. I can field it. Let me know down in the comments if you want to see me do some Bulgrins and some veterans, or if you want to see me continuing with some Stormtroopers and Kazakin. Let me know down in the comments below. Tactics wise, for the units that I've done so far, of third platoon, I should say, before we completely... Well, actually, no, we'll come back to third platoon for a little bit. So, tactics wise, it's going to be a little difficult. I don't imagine in their skeleton stage of just these 3 basic squads and 2 characters that the Assault Corps is going to achieve a huge amount. There's only 15 of them, plus 2 characters. I feel like mass grenadiers is needed rather than just 15 of them, because they're going to be foot-slogging across the board. But we shall see. They might make a surprisingly little sort of take these 15 guys, these 17 guys, and just go and take that objective. Just go. This is a little force. See what it can do. They might all get wiped out in one go. They might actually achieve something in their small state. But I feel like for them to be most effective, I really need to expand the Assault Corps to be full and weighty and mighty. Last thing to say is the sort of the fluff that I've got going on with the Assault Corps now, because it's becoming a bit more structured. So originally, the fluff behind these guys was, and I'm continuing with this fluff, was that the Mordian, the Mordian 50 rifles, they're an infantry regiment. They are constantly going, fighting battles of attrition, therefore suffering huge casualties. So, as well as receiving regular reinforcements from Mordia, they also tend to fight alongside of the Mordian regiments, and the remnants of other regiments gets folded into the Mordian 50 rifles. But not, and whilst they prefer to accept Mordians, of course, because Mordians look down on other regiments for not being smart enough and not being ballsy enough for marching in ranks, they will accept any. This is war at the end of the day. Got to keep the regiment at full strength. They will accept other non-Mordian regiment remnants into their ranks, but the rule is you're coming into our regiment, my house, my rules kind of thing. So your uniform's going to get changed to be in line with all of ours. You've got to look smart, and you've got to wear a hat. You've got to wear the peaked cap. Come on, unless you're the Assault Corps. This is where the exceptions are being made. So, as a result of accepting other non-Mordians in, the Mordians have started to become more exposed to non-traditional Mordian tactics, not just non-19th century, 18th century warfare tactics. So, and a big catalyst, a big amount of their recruits that they're finding are being, remnants that are coming into the regiment are from Cadian regiments or Cadian style regiments, because obviously Cadians, all the regiments that fought for Cadia, all the colonies and stuff, are now kind of orphaned. Now there's obviously still loads of Cadians out there, and they are continuing their military practices and colonies and whatnot, still churning out Cadian regiments, of course. But as a result, there's a lot of Cadians, which remnant units, orphaned units, and so they are getting, slowly but surely, more and more of them are appearing in the Mordian 50th rifles, and inevitably, these aren't just going to be standard infantry regiments. Some of these are going to be Kazakin. Okay, and Kazakin fight obviously are the elite of the Cadians and are hard as nails, and even the Mordians sort of begrudgingly respect these guys. They might fight wrongly, but they've got, they're dead-eyed, steely-eyed killers. So the Kazakin came in and initially we're not going to wear these stupid uniforms. We're going to keep our tactics, blah, blah, blah. Bit of friction. And the Mordian's like, well, you've been assigned to us. You've got to obey orders. If you don't obey orders, then, you're going to get shot. We've got a lot of, Mordian 50 rifles is already penitent. We're already having to prove ourselves to the ecclesiarchy. So we've got a lot of commissars and ecclesiarchy along here. If you don't, do as you're told, they're probably going to burn you at the stake. So the Kazakin were like, okay, fine. You know what? We'll wear the uniforms, but let's, but you guys have got to start listening to us and our tactics, because you are just throwing good guys away, good Kazakin away, in by using them as just normal infantry. Like, you're throwing them away. We can introduce you to how to, you don't just have to throw waves and waves of men at people. You can, use some more interesting tactics. And the Mordians were like, okay, compromise, fine. The Mordians at first were like, we're not so sure. We do things the way we do things. But after seeing the Kazakin in action, after seeing the Scions in action, they were really impressed. And, Mordians aren't stupid. They might be bluff old traditionalists. They might be stubborn. They might be dour, but they're not stupid. And at the end of the day, as long as you're killing heretics, that's fine. And so the fluff is the regiment commanders were like, okay, fine. You guys, you guys have really shown us that there might be something in this, in the way you fight. Better armor, better weapons. Storming enemy positions, fast-moving tactics, maybe even some small unit tactics. So let's look into this. So compromise is that you have to wear the right uniforms. You got, we can't compromise on anything. We can't compromise that part of it. You've got to wear the uniforms, but we're going to form the assault corps and base it off Cadian Kazakin tactics. Hardcore stormtrooper, elite veteran units, and that these are going to be these aren't going to be drawn from the Scholar Progenium. We have huge amounts of veterans within the Mordian Infantry Rifles because we have so many engagements, and we're constantly getting remnant units in, and just this, it's a long-standing regiment with a proud history. We've got a lot of veterans, so we're going to take those veterans out and put them into and not all of them. We're going to take a large amount of our veteran soldiers and form them into elite stormtrooper units. And they're not called Kazakin, and they're not called Scions. They're called stormtroopers, and their job is to storm the hardest parts of the enemy line, crack them open for regular infantry to break through. And so it's dangerous being in the assault corps. It's hazardous because you're always going to be taking on you're always going to be going into against some of the hardest enemy strong points, but overall it reduces casualties because you do a spearhead with the assault corps, and then the regular infantry follow that up. And the Kazakin were like, yeah, fair enough. We can teach you how to do that. We've used those tactics. We know also lots of other tactics. We're a very flexible force. We will, we'll wear the uniforms. Fine. If that's the main thing you're worried about, Mordians are like, of course that's the main thing you're worried about. You've got to look good in this job. And the Kazakin are like, well, that's the main thing. We'll wear the uniforms, but you've got to start listening to us. So that is how the assault corps come about, and that's extends the fluff that I've had with the Mordian Infantry Rifles, not just from the beginning of the Great Mordian Restoration Project, but since I've had the army. So that's kind of why this Kazakin sergeant, he's not even, he's technically he's only an NCO, he's only a sergeant. That's why he is actually leading the assault corps, because he's the highest ranking surviving member that has been inducted into the Mordians. And so they're like, well, look, you're the highest ranking Kazakin. This is your project. You run it. You get de facto command over it. And so it's actually this Kazakin sergeant is the one that's going to be leading the force. And I need to come up with a name for him. So if anyone's got any cool ideas for a name for this guy, then that would be, if any ideas for some background fluff, I mean, obviously I can come up with it, but it would be cool. Some background fluff to this Kazakin sergeant. That and he's basically now he's like the RSM or the CSM of the squad. He's the regimental sergeant major or the company sergeant major for the assault corps. But he is essentially leading that force now. So there you go, guys. That's sort of the fluff behind it. I quite like it. I like how it's both serious. We're going to have proper squad tactics and everything, but also silly. Like the main thing that the Mordians were bothered about was that these guys just weren't wearing the right uniforms. God damn it! Got to get with the program. So what do you guys think? I think I'll leave the video there. What do you think of the models for this week? What do you think of the red tufts of grass for the basing material? And what do you think about the fluff for the assault corps? How it's going to be based on the Kazakin? And if anyone got a cool name potentially for the sergeant, doesn't have to be anything. Movie and film and TV references are always preferred, and I like to imagine that this guy is dead hard. He's a dead hard combat veteran. He is not messing around. He's not mucking about. He is a dead hard guy. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed this video. A bit of a long one today, but we've covered lots of different stuff. We've covered lots of modelling things, lots of fluff, lots of tactics. We've covered all sorts of stuff. Let me know what you want to see coming up over the next few weeks. More stormtroopers, or maybe some regular infantry, veterans, and abhumans. Let me know down in the comments below. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.